Who sits here? Tom, Bill, your mom? Nice. That's a new piece of graffiti, and I think I'll add to it. What should I put? As I contemplate my tag, Professor Cornell struts in. Just as I suspected, left hand in his pocket, right hand carrying a briefcase. His walk reminds me of every trait I despise about him. Some would call him a coffeehouse yuppie, or maybe a modern-day hippie. To tell you the truth, I just can't decide. Mr. Cornell, in every attempt, tried to fit the role of the academia man, but failed miserably when it came to the taste needed to pull it off correctly. Today, he's dressed in his usual, a Ralph Lauren sky blue button-down and khakis, which also happen to be floods. Due to his floods, I tend to always notice his unusual sock choices. Today, he's going with white with gray pinstripes. Mr. Cornell, that's a conservative effort for you. Lastly, and what I believe sets off his unique style, are his shoes. Loafers, simple yet sophisticated, yet these are different. Shined pennies are in these, which I believe represent his anal retentive personality. It's funny that a shoe someone wears can represent so much about him or her. In contradiction to his schooled ways of the arts, his appetite was that of a bagged bologna sandwich with cheese. Thinking of his first grade type lunch always puts a smile on my face. Anyway, I go back to the excerpt on my desk. Mr. Cornell clears his throat, a sound I've come to associate with impending boredom.
Mr. Thompson,
He says, his voice dripping with condescension.
Perhaps you'd like to share your fascinating observations with the class instead of defacing school property?
The whole class snickers. I smirk, just expressing myself. Isn't that what art's all about?
Detention, Mr. Thompson.
His face tightens.
After school. And we'll discuss then.
The bell screams the end of the day, and I trudge down to the English classroom, the one place I'd rather not be. Mr. Cornell is nowhere to be found. Figures. I settle into a desk at the back, pulling out my phone, but there's no signal. Lame. After about 15 minutes, I realize no one else is coming. I try the door. Locked. I rattle the handle, then bang on it. Nothing. Hello? I shout, but the only reply is the echoing silence of the empty school. I check the windows. They're sealed shut. My phone is still dead. This is getting weird. I pace, trying to figure out what's going on. Did Cornell forget about me? Did he lock me in here as some kind of twisted punishment? An hour crawls by. The light outside fades and the classroom grows dim. Panic starts to set in. Am I really going to be stuck here all night? Just as the thought solidifies, the door creaks open. A sliver of light from the hallway illuminating the room. But it's not the bright, reassuring glow of the school lights. It's a faint, sickly yellow, barely cutting through the gloom. All the lights in the school are off. Cautiously, I step into the hallway. The familiar posters and lockers are swallowed by shadows. Every creak of the building sounds amplified. I make my way to the main entrance, pulling on the heavy bar. Locked. I try every door I can find. The library, the gym, even the back exit by the cafeteria. All locked tight. Just as despair starts to truly settle in, a shuffling sound echoes from down the hall. A figure emerges from the darkness, pushing a large trash bin. It's Mr. Jones, the head custodian, his usual gruff demeanor replaced by a strange, vacant stare. "Mr. Jones," I exclaim, relief flooding through me. "The doors are locked. I'm stuck here." He stops. His eyes, usually sharp, seem to look right through me. A slow, chilling smile spreads across his face, revealing stained teeth.
"Oh, you're stuck all right, kiddo."
He rasps, his voice deeper than usual. My heart pounds. "What are you talking about?" He leans in, his breath stale.
"More than likely, you'll never leave."
A cold shiver runs down my spine as Mr. Jones's words sink in.
Not now that night's hit. This school, it changes after dark.
"What do you mean, this school changes?"
Takes on a whole new life. Every night it comes alive with the lost kids who never made it home. You're not the first.
"What happened to them?" He chuckles softly.
You're looking at the survivors, kid. Lots of kids over the years. They get trapped too. Best advice I can give you, son, survive. You've got to be quick and clever if you want to escape.
The once familiar school now feels like a prison. I stumble back, trying to process what he just said. Panic turns to confusion.
I keep the secrets of this school, but no one comes out unscathed. Best start running when you can.
My heart races as I look around. I step backward, feeling the cool metal of the lockers against my palm as I glance at the exits, all sealed tight. With that, he turns, pushing the trash bin deeper into the hall. The metallic wheels squeak ominously as he disappears into the darkness. I'm left alone, clutching my phone, wishing for any sign of life. The silence envelops me once more, but faint whispers echo from the depths of the hall, urging me onward. Summoning every ounce of courage, I turn and sprint back toward the classroom, hoping to find another way out. Survive. But survive what? A growing unease. The silence that follows Mr. Jones's departure is even heavier than before. It's not just the absence of sound, it's an active, oppressive quiet, as if the very air is holding its breath. The school, a place I've spent countless mundane hours, now feels alien, menacing. I try to rationalize it. Mr. Jones is old, maybe a little senile. He's probably just trying to scare me. But the conviction in his voice, the chilling emptiness in his eyes, it wasn't a joke. And the way he just vanished into the gloom, it left a cold knot of fear in my stomach. My gaze drifts towards the main staircase. In the daytime, it's a bustling thoroughfare, but now it's a gaping maw, leading to unseen horrors. I consider going back to the classroom, but the thought of being enclosed again, cut off from any potential escape, is worse than facing the unknown. The haunting hallways I decide to explore cautiously. Maybe there's another exit, a fire escape, anything. The hallway seems to stretch endlessly. Each faint creak of the building makes me jump, my imagination conjuring grotesque figures from the shadows. I pass the art room, the door slightly ajar, revealing a shadowy canvas on an easel, looking like a distorted face in the dim light. I quickly avert my eyes. The gymnasium, usually filled with the echoes of bouncing balls and shouting, is now a vast, cavernous space. The basketball hoops loom like gallows in the darkness, and the bleachers appear to be filled with unseen spectators. I hear a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, dry rustle that seems to come from all directions at once. Is it the wind, or something else? I hurry past, my pace quickening. The cafeteria is even worse. The metal chairs and tables are stacked haphazardly, their forms resembling skeletal limbs in the gloom. The smell of stale food seems to cling to the air, a faint, sickly, sweet odor. I swear I hear a faint, distant giggle like a child playing. But there are no children here. Not anymore, if Mr. Jones is to be believed. The thought of other trapped students wandering these dark halls sends a shiver down my spine that has nothing to do with the temperature. The gnawing hunger in my stomach finally overrides the fear. My mind drifts to the cafeteria, the stale food smell now almost comforting compared to the looming specters of the dark school. Maybe the lunch lady is still there, some kind of late-night caretaker. I make my way back, the clicking of my shoes on the linoleum the only sound in the oppressive quiet of the deserted hallways. Each shadow seems to writhe, and the distant hum of the building's ancient machinery sounds like a mournful groan. As I push through the swinging doors into the kitchen, a faint, sickly yellow light glows from within. Sure enough, there she is, Mrs. Davidson, the lunch lady, her ample frame silhouetted against the weak illumination, humming softly to herself. The sight of a familiar face, even in this terrifying context, brings a momentary wave of relief. "Mrs. Davidson," I blurt out, my voice raspy with relief and fear. "I'm trapped. The doors are all locked." She turns slowly, her usually stern face softening into a warm, almost maternal smile.
"Oh, bless your heart, dear. You must be famished."
Her voice, usually a grating drone, is now as comforting as a warm blanket, a stark contrast to the terror I've been feeling. The unexpected kindness almost makes me forget the bone-chilling encounter with Mr. Jones.
"Come on, I'll whip you up something special."
She motions me to a worn plastic table and soon places a plate in front of me. A burger, thick and juicy with all the fixings. It looks perfectly normal, even appetizing. I've never been so grateful for a simple meal. My stomach roars in protest and I devour it, barely tasting the first few bites. The warm, greasy patty feels like salvation. As I chew on a particularly tough piece, something feels off. The texture, the taste, it's not right. It's too firm, too fibrous, with a strange, almost gamey aftertaste. A sudden metallic tang fills my mouth, reminiscent of blood but not beef. My teeth scrape against something unyielding. A cold dread begins to creep up my spine. I pull the patty apart, my fingers trembling, my stomach lurching. Embedded in the ground meat, unmistakable, are tiny, brittle bones and coarse black hairs. My eyes widen in horror, the half-chewed bite suddenly becoming a gagging lump in my throat. Ground rats. The word screams in my mind, the image vivid and sickening. I look up, my gaze locking with Mrs. Davidson's. Her comforting smile has contorted into a grotesque, wide-mouthed laugh, a cackle that echoes through the empty cafeteria, bouncing off the linoleum and stainless steel. Her eyes, usually kind and weary, now gleam with a chilling, predatory amusement, reflecting the faint kitchen light like a cat's in the dark.
Enjoying your dinner, dearie?
She rasps, her voice no longer sweet but laced with a sinister, mocking glee that sends shivers down my already freezing spine. I push the plate away with a guttural cry, scrambling back from the table, my chair scraping loudly across the floor.
I made it especially for you. You know rats are highly intelligent and taste fantastic.
My stomach rebels violently, and I barely make it out of the cafeteria before I'm retching in a nearby trash can, the gruesome taste searing my tongue. The lunch lady's laughter follows me, growing louder, more distorted, until it sounds less human and more like the cackling of a hyena. I stumble away from the cafeteria, the vile taste of horror still clinging to my tongue. I need to get as far away from that place as possible, to find some corner of the school that hasn't been twisted by the night. My legs, acting on instinct, carry me towards the library, a place of quiet refuge and order even in the disorienting daylight hours. The tall shelves and hushed atmosphere usually bring a sense of calm, a stark contrast to the chaos and terror outside. As I push open the heavy double doors, a faint, flickering light emanates from deeper within the stacks, a beacon in the oppressive gloom. Hello? The sound seems to be swallowed by the cavernous room, leaving only the echo of my own fear. 3 figures emerge from between the towering shelves, spectral in the dim light. They look to be about my age, maybe a little older, their faces smudged with dirt, but their eyes, though wary, hold a flicker of understanding, a shared experience of dread.
Another one?
A girl with tangled blonde hair whispers, her voice raspy as if unused to speaking. Her gaze sweeps over me, assessing.
Yeah, right.
A tall, lanky guy confirms, eyeing me with a mixture of curiosity and grim acceptance.
Another one you just...
I nod, still breathless, leaning against a bookshelf, my hands trembling. The lunch lady, she tried to feed me rats. Ground up in a burger. The words still make my stomach churn. A dark-haired boy with haunted eyes snorts.
That's lucky you. Could have been worse.
He gestures vaguely into the shadows, a gesture that sends a fresh wave of unease through me.
We've been here for years.
The blonde girl states, her voice flat and devoid of emotion, as if relaying a mundane fact.
Some of us, anyway. Many more have perished.
Her words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken stories of loss and survival. My blood runs cold. Years? But how? I can't wrap my head around the concept. How could anyone survive here for years? The thought of being trapped indefinitely, losing all hope, is almost as terrifying as the immediate threats.
Come on,
The lanky guy says, motioning towards a section of ancient-looking tomes, their leather spines worn and cracked. He slides a seemingly immovable bookcase with surprising ease, revealing a dark, narrow passage behind it, barely wide enough for one person to squeeze through.
We'll show you our home.
I hesitate for a moment, my instincts screaming caution. But the alternative is staying in the terrifying silence of the haunted school, exposed to whatever lurks in the shadows. The unknown, with these 3, seems less daunting than facing the horrors alone. I follow them into the darkness, the passage closing silently behind us. The space opens into a surprisingly vast hidden area behind the thick walls of the school. It's clearly makeshift, but obviously lived in, a testament to their resilience. Gym mats have been creatively arranged to resemble beds, covered with salvaged blankets that look like they've seen better days. A corner boasts a surprisingly well-stocked vending machine filled with an array of snacks and drinks, an unbelievable luxury in this nightmare.
Welcome to the club. It's
The dark-haired boy says, a sardonic grin on his face, a glimmer of dark humor in his eyes.
The Still Alive Club.
They tell me their stories, their voices low and weary, of how each of them got trapped, of the long, terrifying nights, and of the others who were with them but didn't make it. The school isn't just locked, it's actively hostile, a living, breathing entity of malice. They've learned its rhythms, its dangers, the unspoken rules of survival within its walls. They speak of close calls, of desperate escapes, of the constant vigilance required to simply exist from one night to the next. The dangers within.
There's only one way out. The
girl explains, her voice low and serious, her gaze meeting mine with an unnerving intensity.
But no one's ever succeeded in getting in, let alone out.
The lanky guy adds, his voice tight with an unspoken dread.
It's guarded, and there are others who roam the school at night, dangers you wouldn't believe exist.
He shivers despite the stale air of our sanctuary. He points a finger, ticking them off with a chilling precision.
The gym teacher, he's still stuck on his old drill sergeant mentality. He roams the gym and the locker rooms. If he blows his whistle and catches you, he'll try to roll you up in a gym mat till you suffocate. He thinks he's teaching you discipline, making you stronger, but he just wants to break you.
The vice principal, she's the tricky one. Don't fall for her act. She'll act all concerned, try to help you find an exit, lead you right to a way out. But it's all a ruse. She's just waiting for her moment to turn on you, to trap you herself. She enjoys the power trip, the false sense of hope she offers.
The handyman, he's a brute. Just pure, unadulterated danger. He patrols the lower floors, especially the workshops and maintenance rooms. You hear his toolbox rattling. That's your cue to run. He's strong and silent, and he doesn't care who he hurts.
And the librarian, don't let her quiet demeanor fool you. She's obsessed with silence and order. If you make a sound, if you disturb her precious books, if you even breathe too loudly, well, let's just say she's not keen on trespassers. She believes the school is her domain, and she'll protect its quiet at all costs.
I look around our makeshift sanctuary at the gym mats repurposed as beds, the stolen vending machine snacks. The reality of my situation settles in with a crushing weight. Trapped in a nightmare, surrounded by unseen horrors, stalked by the corrupted remnants of the school's staff. My only hope lies in a perilous journey through the basement, if I can even manage to gain entrance. The question now isn't just how to survive the night, but how to escape this perpetual twilight of terror. The creeping gray of dawn, a faint, almost sickly light that bled through the grimy, high windows, brought not the hoped-for relief of a new day, but a fresh surge of primal dread. It was almost time for the school to awaken, to fill with the unwitting sounds of normal students and unsuspecting teachers, blissfully oblivious to the nightmare that lurked beneath their very feet. The other three students, the blonde girl, the lanky guy, and the dark-haired boy, whose names I still hadn't learned in the haze of terror, watched the first hesitant rays of sunlight with a grim, practiced resignation etched onto their faces. It was a familiar, unwelcome routine.
It's starting.
The blonde girl murmured, her eyes fixed on the growing, anemic light, a silent acknowledgement of the impending transition. Suddenly, a low, mechanical whirring rumbled through the very bones of the walls, a sound that began subtly but quickly escalated into a series of loud, ominous clicks and resounding clunks. All around us, the school itself seemed to shift and reconfigure. A complex system of hidden doors began to move, seemingly on their own accord. Sections of the concrete wall slid silently open, revealing new, dark passages that hadn't been there moments before, while others, once accessible and offering even a sliver of refuge, now slammed shut with heavy, definitive thuds. It was as if the school, a malevolent entity, was actively rearranging its own internal anatomy, guiding us, forcing us into a specific, predetermined path. "Stay together!" the lanky guy hissed, his voice tight with urgency, his hand clamping around my arm, a grounding presence in the bewildering chaos.
It's starting. Keep away from the eagle. Don't look back. Just run.
From down one of the newly opened, dimly lit corridors, a guttural, piercing shriek echoed, a sound that was less human and more like the cry of a predatory bird. This was quickly followed by the terrifying whoosh of ignited gas, a sound that instantly ignited a fresh wave of panic within me. A hulking, almost supernatural figure, easily 7 feet tall, rounded the corner, its silhouette gargantuan against the faint light. It was the school's grotesque school mascot, a person entombed within a crudely constructed yet disturbingly realistic eagle costume. Its head was disproportionately large, a monstrous feathered caricature, and its fabric feathers were stained and torn, clinging to its frame like decaying flesh. In its taloned hands, it wielded a terrifyingly real industrial-grade flamethrower. The eagle mascot didn't speak, didn't utter a single word, but its very presence, combined with the terrifying roar of the flames it occasionally spat from the nozzle of its weapon, was a clear, undeniable command. It moved with an eerie, determined gait, not running directly at us, but rather pursuing us with a chilling precision, herding us like terrified sheep deeper into the shifting, labyrinthine corridors of the school's hidden passages. The heat from the flamethrower was shockingly intense, a searing wave that forced us forward, deeper into the suffocating darkness. We ran, scrambling through narrow, newly revealed gaps in the walls, pushed relentlessly by the fiery presence of the eagle mascot. The ominous clicks and clunks of the moving doors continued, a rhythmic mechanical pulse that guided our path, funneling us down a specific, predetermined route. The air grew stale and thick with dust and the acrid smell of burnt propellant, the faint, natural light from above almost completely gone, swallowed by the oppressive concrete. We were being systematically driven into the school's deepest, most forgotten corners, a place rarely, if ever, seen by human eyes. Finally, after what felt like an endless, heart-pounding chase through the school's newly formed arteries, we were driven into a large, utterly windowless room. Its walls were made of rough, unforgiving concrete, and the air hung heavy and still. The flamethrower roared one last final time behind us, its heat pushing us fully inside, sealing our fate for the day. With a heavy, echoing thud that reverberated through the very ground, the unseen door behind us slammed shut, plunging us into absolute, suffocating darkness. The sound reverberated in the stillness, a chilling finality. We were sealed in, trapped. The hidden room in the cycle, disoriented, breathless, and still reeling from the nauseating encounter with the lunch lady and the terrifying chase. We huddled together in the oppressive darkness. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of stale concrete and the faint, unsettling scent of something ancient and forgotten. After a few agonizing minutes, my eyes began to adjust slightly, and I could make out the faint, ghostly outlines of the room. It was surprisingly spacious, much larger than our previous hideout, and filled with rows of old, moth-eaten gym mats, similar to the ones we'd used in our earlier sanctuary, but piled haphazardly, as if tossed aside. It looked like a grim, makeshift dormitory, a holding pen. There were others here too, shadowy figures huddled silently in their own corners, their faces indistinguishable in the gloom, their forms like ghostly apparitions. These, I realized with a fresh pang of dread, must be the other trapped students Mr. Jones and my new companions had spoken of, the silent witnesses to the school's horrifying cycle. Hours crawled by in an oppressive, almost maddening silence, broken only by the occasional shuffle of feet or a soft sigh from one of the other occupants. We whispered amongst ourselves, sharing what little fragmented information we had, trying desperately to make sense of this bizarre, terrifying routine that governed our existence. The new students I'd met, who now shared this concrete prison with us, explained that this was the holding room where all the trapped individuals were kept during the long hours of the day. It was our prison, our forced dormancy during the normal, waking world of the school, when unsuspecting students roamed the halls above. No one knew why the school did this, or how it managed such an elaborate, sophisticated system of concealment and manipulation. It was simply an accepted, terrifying fact of their existence. Then, as the last vestiges of light outside faded and the world succumbed to the encroaching darkness, a different sound began to echo through the room. A subtle groan, a mechanical creaking of unseen mechanisms coming from the walls, distinct from the dawn protocol. The heavy thud of the door behind us, the one that had sealed us in, was followed by a faint, yet distinct, click. The heavy door to our hidden room mysteriously opened, swinging inward on silent hinges. No artificial light spilled in from the outside. The school was dark once more, consumed by the terrifying predatory night. This was our signal. This was our release, not into freedom, but into a different kind of confinement. Night falls, the dark-haired boy said, his voice flat, devoid of any discernible emotion, a simple statement of an immutable fact. Time to roam? The cycle had begun again. During the day, we were prisoners in the hidden room, sequestered from the outside world, ghosts in the machine. When night fell, the school became our hunting ground, or rather, we became the hunted. We were allowed to roam its dark, haunted halls, compelled by the need for supplies, driven by a desperate search for answers, striving simply to survive until the terrifying dawn protocol began anew. The basement, the only rumored escape, the impossible goal, now loomed even larger in my mind, a perilous, tantalizing possibility in this endless nocturnal game of cat and mouse. It was a terrifying dance of survival, and we were the pawns. The freedom of night was an illusion. The school, in its nocturnal state, felt less like a building and more like a vast, predatory creature, its dark hallways the veins through which we, the trapped, scurried. Tonight, our primary objective was scavenging. Our secret room, while a refuge, was slowly running low on the hoarded vending machine snacks, a constant reminder of our dwindling resources. The 3 veteran survivors led the way. Alex, the lanky one, was surprisingly agile in the dark. The blonde possessed an unnerving calm, her eyes sharp and constantly scanning. Mark, the dark-haired boy, was the most cynical, but also the most observant, his quiet warnings often saving us from close calls. Our target, the vending machines in the main lobby, a risky venture but a necessary one. The gym teacher, we knew, typically patrolled the athletic wing, but his routes were unpredictable, a terrifying game of chance in the sprawling darkness. Our breaths held. Every creak of the aging building, every distant hum of its antiquated machinery sent a jolt of adrenaline through my veins. Just as we rounded the corner to the lobby, the air was ripped apart by a sound that instantly froze my blood, a sharp, piercing whistle. It cut through the silence like a knife, echoing off the high ceilings, a sound that in daylight signified the start of a game. But here, in the oppressive darkness, heralded something far more sinister. It was a sound designed to command, to stop you in your tracks, to strip away any semblance of control. "Run!" Alex hissed, shoving me forward. His hand clamped around my arm, a powerful guiding grip. "He's here." My legs, momentarily paralyzed by fear, finally obeyed. We scrambled, a panicked cluster of bodies, back the way we came. The whistle sounded again, closer this time, its shrillness amplified by the enclosed space. It was a sustained, piercing blast, the kind that vibrates in your teeth. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Through the gloom, I saw him, a hulking, broad-shouldered figure, easily recognizable even in the dark by his distinctive heavy gait. He was dressed in a worn tracksuit, the kind gym teachers always seem to wear, but his eyes glowed with an unnerving predatory intensity, reflecting the ambient moonlight. He was carrying something long and cylindrical, a rolled-up gym mat, its tightly bound form looking disturbingly like a sarcophagus. "He's got a mat!" Mark yelled, his voice laced with stark terror, a raw, animalistic fear that mirrored my own. "Don't let him corner you." We dove into the nearest available hallway, a narrow stretch lined with lockers that seemed to loom even taller in the dark, their cold metal surfaces reflecting the faint light from distant windows like vacant eyes. The gym teacher, his movements surprisingly swift for his size, was hot on our heels. His breath came in ragged, grunting gasps, punctuated by the chilling rhythmic blast of his whistle, each one a hammer blow to my eardrums, each blast a declaration of his hunt. He wasn't trying to catch us to punish us in the traditional sense. He was hunting, and we were the prey, destined for a far more permanent timeout. He wasn't interested in discipline. He was interested in a twisted form of containment, a macabre exercise in control. I could hear his heavy footsteps thudding behind me, closer, closer. Each step resonated with a terrifying finality. I pushed myself harder, my lungs burning, a desperate, raw instinct for survival kicking in. My muscles screamed in protest, but the image of that tightly rolled mat and the suffocating darkness it promised drove me onward. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from behind. I risked another glance, a fleeting, desperate look. Alex, in his attempt to create a diversion, had veered sharply, throwing his weight against a row of lockers. The metallic clang resonated through the hallway, a bold and risky move designed to draw immediate attention. The noise had worked. The gym teacher had stopped, his massive form momentarily silhouetted, his head cocked, that terrifying whistle still clutched in his hand. He seemed to deliberate, his focus momentarily shifting to the new source of disturbance. "Go!" Alex yelled, his voice strained, a raw cry of sacrifice. He waved us on, urging us to escape, a desperate plea for us to not let his diversion be in vain. "I'll lead him away." Sarah grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong, pulling me along. "We have to keep moving. He'll roll him if he catches him." Her voice was filled with a desperate urgency, a stark contrast to her usual calm, highlighting the very real, very present danger that Alex was now facing alone. The sheer horror of that fate, the complete sensory deprivation and gradual asphyxiation, was a visceral fear that tightened my chest. It wasn't just physical suffocation, it was the psychological terror of being utterly, completely helpless, sealed in a dark, confined space. We continued our desperate dash, the sounds of the gym teacher's heavy pursuit fading slightly as he presumably turned his relentless attention to Alex. The whistle blessedly grew fainter, eventually vanishing into the cavernous silence of the gym. The silence that followed the fading sound of the whistle was almost more terrifying than the whistle itself. It left us with the gnawing uncertainty of Alex's fate, a constant sickening fear that now clung to every shadow, every quiet corner. The knowledge that one of us had willingly, or perhaps instinctively, offered themselves as bait weighed heavily on us, a grim testament to the brutal reality of our nightly existence within these haunted walls. Dear Valley View High School, we accept the fact of detention, for whatever it was we did wrong, for the disruptions that rippled through your hallowed halls, for the defiant scribbles on desks, for the questions we dared to ask that you found inconvenient. We stand here on the cusp of an unwanted dawn, acknowledging the rules you've laid out for us. But we think you're absolutely insane to believe you can make us stay trapped within your walls forever, to become mere shadows in your never-ending night. You see us as you want to see us, through the narrow lens of your regulations and expectations. You define us in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions for your meticulously organized filing cabinets. To you, we are just the disruptive, the unruly, the invisible, pieces of your institutional machinery that need to be categorized and controlled. You look at our daytime personas, our forced conformity, and believe you have us all figured out. But what we found out in the long, terrifying hours when your polished hallways twist into a shifting labyrinth of fear, when the faint sounds of distant traffic vanish and your very staff transform into monstrous, nightmarish shadows, is that each one of us is infinitely more than you could ever define. Each one of us is a survivor, an escape artist, a ghost in your machine, a fighter, and a prisoner, yes, but one yearning to be free, to breathe air that doesn't taste of dust and stale fear, to see a sky that isn't filtered through the grime of your high locked windows. Does that answer your question, Valley View High School? Do you understand now who we truly are? Sincerely yours, the Stay Alive Club.